a massive sigh of relief and a roar of triumph. It's nuts.
It goes through like a board at like CAS or something. They're checking out the result, and then you'll get the results in 2 to 3 weeks.
The profound moment for the formation of the Premier League, etc., Italian 90 and all the rest of it, was when people realised, and I mean powerful people with money and television contracts, that football was part of the entertainment industry. Not lip service to it, but actually part of it. And now VAR has pulled us back from that line. And the problem with that is something else will fill that vacuum if they are very, very careful. The next game, and that's enough moaning from me about the performance against West Ham. And I know that any point got away from home in the Premier League has to be, as I always say, dragged out of the cold, hard ground.
Especially for a team that don't draw very often.
Sure.
Quite draw shy.
And if you can't win, make sure you draw it. I get all that. So, hopefully, let's try and be more optimistic. 3 o'clock kickoff on Saturday, for those who are the traditionalists among you. Instead, that was the first West Ham game that wasn't on a Sunday for a home game, but it was better time. Will he make changes? I mean, he's obviously demanded he has all these players. Didn't use them last night. Will they make changes for the Fulham game, Jack?
I think he's got to. Yeah, like he was saying in the press conference a few days ago. We were talking about this, and when I asked him about rotation, he said he had to start the season with the established players, and then eventually, obviously with the old players, and then in time the new guys will be able to come in. But clearly the current 11, which has played he's played mainly changes so far this season, apart from I think the only unforced change has been the switching Sessegnon for Perisic. And he's got to change the back three. I think I would love to see either Doherty or Spence, if ready, in a right wing back, and then possibly Richarlison.
What do you mean if ready? Are they physically fit?
Well, yeah. I mean, Spence obviously came on in the Forest game. I don't believe we've seen 1 minute of Matt Doherty so far.
No,
I don't think we have we?
No.
Did you against Southampton? Like you might have done. They brought on 4 subs in the 87th, 86th minute.
They do make a lot of sense from Bissouma, but they've got to change things because the current setup clearly isn't working, and they've got they can't get in a situation where they're going to Man City, for example, on the 10th of September, and they're playing as badly as this.
Although they did beat City on the back of 3 straight Premier League wins last season, so maybe that might be right
put it out of the bag again.
Oh no, that's why the game is great. That's why we watch it. That's why we are professional mugs, because we speculate about what might happen, and that is a mug's game.
I mean, he did say yesterday after the game that he would make changes. I'm just really curious though to see that, because someone can check these numbers, but he has not made many changes for a game in a long, long time. I mean, pretty much since the closure of the January transfer window, it's been very settled. 1, maybe 2 at most when he's had to. So this would be very unusual for him to make sort of 3 or 4. And I just wonder if he will. Like Jack says, he does have to. You can't. And also, they're not in a position. The previous couple of seasons, Spurs have been playing Europa League and Conference League. So at least that's given. Obviously, you don't want to be in those competitions, but it does give the manager a little bit of an opportunity to take a breath and say, okay, well, Clement Longley, etc. These guys who haven't had any minutes, you can get some minutes. These guys are so short minutes, but when do they get them? Because the Premier League now is so ferociously competitive. It does have to be Fulham, but I guess you're also thinking, using Longley as an example, Mitrovic and the kind of form he's in is a bit of a baptism of fire. I so want Romero to be back to have that contest. That would be amazing, Romero and Mitrovic. But also the substitutes. I wrote about this in my piece from the game yesterday. He waited until the 76th minute, made 1 change out of the 5. And bearing in mind last season, 2 of his favourite topics that he returned to again and again, pretty much weekly, sometimes more than that, were the lack of options he had off the bench and the fact that next season with 5 subs that wasn't going to cut it anymore. Well, now we have the 5 subs. We've had a summer where 7 players have come in. Obviously, one of them's been loaned away, but so 6. The squad has been bolstered. He has a better squad. But just curious that he's not really using that, especially with such a glut of games, and this week especially constricted because you've got Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday, which he was complaining about after the Forest game. So, yeah, odd.
Even then, I think he's got on his smartwatch. He probably gets a message that says 60 million. Your cheers, Daniel, before he remembers putting Richarlison on for the last 15 minutes. And the problem with Richarlison is that the obvious replacement there will be Son, and no people are going mad about Son's form. He's always been a slightly streaky player, last season notwithstanding. And you know that if you leave him out there, he will get back into form. And I wouldn't want to be dropping him, but at the moment, nothing about his performances suggests you should keep taking him. Let's be truthful. I'm biting a bullet here, lads.
Charlie, was I right in thinking, I saw, it didn't come through on the TV at all, but I saw somebody tweet saying that when Kulusevski got hooked instead of Son for Richarlison, there were boos from the away end.
I didn't pick up on that, I have to say, but they may well have been, but couldn't hit from where we are with fairly far. But I mean, I know just anecdotally, most Spurs fans I'm talking to would feel that sentiment. I mean, whether they go as far as booing, but I know very few Spurs fans who are saying no, let's keep Son. I mean, the main reason for keeping Son is that he can be streaky, and so if he goes 5 games without a goal, you think he'll probably get a couple on the weekend. But that's not the most sort of rational or scientific way of picking a team.
Well, he I don't want to say got away because he's a brilliant player. We enjoyed his streaky spells in the past, but there wasn't an alternative. The problem with having an alternative is it brings an even greater focus on your own performances, doesn't it?
I have to say I'm quite kind of pessimistic about the Fulham game. No. So, going in, at the start of this week, I thought that Spurs would actually have a harder time against Fulham than against West Ham, just because West Ham are playing quite badly. And I've been really impressed with Fulham so far. I think they'll be, they're really well organised up the ball. They've got a brilliant number, better number 9 than West Ham do at the moment in Mitrovic. He's been fantastic so far this season. They've got lots of, busy, high-energy players. Cabano's been good. The guy that's from Sporting has been fantastic in the middle of the pitch. Pereira's been good, they got from Man United. So I just feel like they're the kind of team who will be able to put aggressive pressure on Tottenham if Tottenham struggles to play out. I think they'll be able to hold their shape well enough to stop Tottenham from counter-attacking that well. This is why I think he has to change it, because I do have quite a bad vibe about this one.
You triggered me there, actually. You used a phrase that I wish I used earlier on. High energy. Fulham are high energy.
Yeah, they really are.
Spurs, what they looked like yesterday, I mean, it was low energy, like the battery was flashing on the side of the team. And I wonder whether they use up so much of their actual physical and psychological energy keeping in a 35-yard block up and down the pitch. Instead of some teams use their energy sprinting to press the opponents, Spurs have to use their energy dropping back. You watch Kane. They're not Olympic sprints, but they are 70 yards jogs up and down the pitch the whole day.
All good teams are really organised up the ball, though. Like they all, any good team will pay a lot of attention to X meters between him and him, X meters between him and him.
But it's where you choose to set up camp, isn't it? That changes the energy use.
I mean, that game is really important just because it would completely change the complexion of things. Because if they win that game, and ideally convincingly, then that's a really good start to the season. 14 points from 6 games would be great. And I think if they were to win that game reasonably well, a lot of this would be forgotten and you would just be focusing on the table, which would be looking really nice.
Charlie, let me correct you slightly. If they win the game is important. If they play well and win the game, things will be different.
Yes, I think if they were to sort of scrape a 1-0 unconvincingly, then there'd still be a lot of the concerns. Yeah, I think
they still have the points. I'm granted that. People like me will still be looking at it through a jeweler's eyepiece and going, not playing very well, are they? Charlie, you might want to leave the podcast now because we're going on to the tedious matter of transfers in a few seconds' time. Although we will talk about some other things as well, including 10 years of Hugo Lloris, marked last night by one of his more eccentric performances. Let's be absolutely frank. You're all listening to The View from the Lane, the Spurs podcast from FX. I'm Danny Kelly. With me today, as you've been hearing, Charlie Eccleshare and Jack Pickford. Back in a second.
Charlie Chapman, and we finally reached the closing week of the summer transfer window. Premier League clubs have spent more than their German, Italian, Spanish and French counterparts combined, and they are not done yet. Don't miss any of the twists and turns with myself, David Ornstein, Adam Crafton and many more on the Athletic Football Podcast this week as we take you inside the deals that really matter. We're free to listen wherever you get your podcast, and we're ad-free on the Athletic app.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Drew from the Lane. Jack Pittsburgh and Charlie Eccleshare with me, Danny Kelly, and we have finally put down and thrown off the grief cloak I was wearing after the result. In the performance, really, against West Ham. The result, of course, at the end of the season will look perfectly normal and acceptable, I presume. Let's be absolutely frank with you, the listeners, and the subscribers, and the downloaders, and the freeloaders, boozers, losers, jacuzzi users among you. That we're doing this about 12 hours before the transfer window shuts. So some of this is liable to make us seem a bit dim. Guys, it's clear that Spurs are trying to get in one more wide player who might be converted into a wing back, and working down the list of likelihood. I guess it goes Carrasco, Ziyech, Traore, the boy at Leeds, I suppose is the other one. One more transfer, one wide player, is that the deal today? Go on, Charlie, tell me that there's going to be 4 deals done at the last minute.
Yeah, just trying to get Neymar over the line. No, I mean, that's the idea, that they move Hill out and then get in there, this 6th wide forward, or 6th forward. Mm-hmm. That kind of completes the squad. Somebody's been saying that for a while, he needs those 2 players in every position. And there's also talk Lucas Moura may go, but the suggestion has always been that, again, they wouldn't do that unless they had a replacement. So unless they were to pivot away from getting rid of Hill, get rid of Moura and bring someone in, to me that would be a surprise, because Moura just feels like a really useful squad player for them, and he doesn't have a massive value. He is someone who always, he's got a great attitude, will always give everything, and I'm sure he'd like to play more, but he must have got pretty used to being that sort of 12th, 13th man. So yeah, it's whether they can find this replacement. If they find the replacement, they can move Hill off, because Valencia are there sort of waiting and ready to sign.
Jack, Dan James is the one that's causing Spurs fans to lose their minds on Twitter. A good player when he was in Wales, a bit part player at Manchester United, very important to the Welsh national team, where his speed opens up spaces for Bale through some of the things that he does. Hasn't been necessarily a huge success at Leeds, but obviously somebody, Conte, Perisic, both of them, see something in him.
Yeah, clearly. I'm not really sure what that would be apart from his pace. Like, he's obviously very quick. I don't think he's an especially accomplished player. I don't look at the Tottenham squad and think they need another quick wide player. I think they could do with, a creative central midfielder, I think. Someone who can, get things going in the middle if they want to switch to a 3-5-2. Like, basically a sort of lower grade James Maddison. I think they could also do with like a specialist right wing back. I know there's not many of them about, but they could one of them would be nice. So I don't really see the case for buying someone like James. It has been suggested. Certainly they have thought and looked at the possibility of signing Wilfried Zaha. Now I don't think that's going to happen. Easy for me to say now at 11:48 on deadline day. I don't think Zaha's going to happen. But I think at least Zaha is,
that makes some sense, because
it's like kind of weird in the sense that he's quite